unboxing the Insta360 1R. Today is January 7th, which could possibly become a very important date for many people. Reason being that Insta360 released the first ever adaptive action camera. If you're wondering what that means, well, the concept is simple. One battery, one processor, and a selection of quick swapping lenses. When it comes to filmmaking, I think we can narrow down types of cameras to a few categories. Action cameras such as GoPro, DSLRs, drones, and 360 cameras. The truth of the matter is that there is a reason these types of cameras don't blend together. As of 2020, there is still no product out there for a filmmaker that does everything that you need it to. It's safe to say that it's currently impossible to go from filming an aerial image down to a DSLR and then be able to go underwater or create similar action cam perspectives all in one camera. It just doesn't exist yet. Or so we thought. Even though I don't see that happening anytime soon, I believe that Insta360 just made the greatest leap in the right direction. Looking at the specs, the 1R is capable of swapping between 3 different lenses, a 4K wide angle mod, dual lens 360 mod, and 1-inch wide angle mod, as they call it. So we have a battery, a processor, and 3 different lenses capable of shooting standard 4K action camera type footage, 5.7K 360 footage, and somehow a 1-inch wide-angle Leica lens capable of shooting 5.3K video and 19 megapixel raw stills. If you're wondering what the difference between the 4K wide-angle mod and the 1-inch mod is, the best way to describe it is that the 4K wide-angle is what comes standard on most action cameras, while the 1-inch mod offers creators a 5.3K 1-inch sensor to achieve image quality and dynamic range, similar to a DSLR camera. The 4K wide sports a 16.4mm angle lens with an aperture of f2.0, the dual lens 360 with a 7.2mm angle lens at f2.8, and the 1-inch wide with a 14.4mm angle lens at f3.2. All in all, with the type of sensor this camera has, those images create a 35mm equivalent focal length. Here's a deeper look at the specs each lens provides. I'd have to say that I'm most impressed by the ability of the 1-inch wide angle lens to shoot 5.3K. It is unfortunately not a raw image, but like I said, this is a big step in the right direction. I most likely will be making a video covering each lens individually to give you a deeper look into what they all look like and what they're capable of, but for now, here are specs regarding the resolution of each lens. The 4K wide angle mod can shoot 4K 60 frames per second, 2.7K 100 frames per second, and 1080p 200 frames per second. The 360 mod can shoot up to 5.7K 30 frames, and the 1-inch mod shooting 5.3K 30 frames, 4K 60, and 1080 120. The one thing I would like to see on this list would be the ability to shoot in 24 frames per second in each resolution available. The only lens capable of doing so is the 360 mod at 5.7K, which is still pretty good. The other lenses shoot with a minimum of 30 frames per second. Not the end of the world for an action camera, but there are moments when 24 frames per second is a plus to have. As far as video coding, we can expect an H.264 and H.265 format for the 4K wide angle and 1-inch wide angle, and H.264 for the dual lens 360 mod. A bitrate up to 100 megabytes per second is pretty standard for action cameras and is included. The camera shoots in the auto setting, but is capable of shooting in manual mode for those that want a bit more control like myself. Different video modes are available for the different lenses attached. In summary, the camera can shoot standard video, HDR, time-lapse, time shift, and bullet time. While sitting in the launch meeting, there were rumors of external audio recording. This has been such a huge problem with GoPro in the past. They basically gave up on the production of their 3.5mm mic adapter, which left a lot of customers, including myself, pretty frustrated. I will be making a separate video pertaining to the audio in this camera, and if what they're saying is true, it could solve a lot of people's problems. In regards to battery life, I heard numbers close to 1 hour, but as mentioned before, those numbers could change, hopefully for the better. Okay, so jumping into the software. This is where it gets a little crazy, and in a good way. If you've ever edited footage, you know how long it can take to find the right moments. Insta360 managed to develop a feature called Auto Frame, which is an AI-powered computer vision algorithm that can identify the best parts of any 360 video and then recommend that to you. There's still plenty of choice, but the Auto Frame feature helps you quickly narrow down those shots worth considering, and then it does the reframing for you. Keep in mind that it's not going to be perfect, but I saw the feature in action and was genuinely impressed. This could cut down editing time in half. Okay, so going back to software, the camera is waterproof to depths of 5 meters, 16.4 feet, straight out of the box, and a dive case enables descents down to 60 meters, 197 feet. Voice control is a must nowadays and is of course included. Along with the AI feature Auto Frame, the camera is also capable of using AI software to do a deep track, which tracks the subject's movement, and automatically reframes the shot to best follow your subject. If you didn't think that was crazy enough, well, then you are in luck. The camera also allows you to do this in real time. Yes, you can literally say mark that to the 1R while you're filming, and the camera will track your subject and then create an automatically reframed shot when you begin editing. Insta360 really is working hard to create a product that can do everything a filmmaker or creator needs. So far, I must say I am impressed. Whether you're a motorcycle rider, filmmaker, snowboarder, athlete, or just enjoy capturing memories, this is a camera I would consider investing in. I always try to be transparent, so I will say that if you are interested in learning more and potentially purchasing this camera, please do so via the link in the description. I receive a small commission from the purchase, which in turn supports the channel and allows me to create more videos. Still worth the money? The 1R. It's not everything I hoped it to be. I mentioned that I wish the 1R was able to shoot in 4K 24 frames per second, which I'm sure we can all agree is a must no matter which camera you buy nowadays. And well, they actually listened. They added that option of filming not only for the 360 mod, but also for the 1-inch wide and the 4K wide lenses. Would have been nice to have had that available at launch, but they did mention it would be rolled out with firmware updates in the future, which happens to be now. As much as I think this camera is a great tool to have, even though I do think it was rushed to the market, this camera is a huge leap in the right direction, and Insta360 is to thank for that. Let's take a look at the pros and cons of this camera since release. Their most recent update now allows us to select between their .insv format and .mp4. Having the option of .mp4 files helps cut down editing time by a lot, since you no longer have to select the .insv files, kind of hard to say, import them into Insta360 Studio app, trim and edit them, and then export them to edit in Premiere. Time is money, so all the more efficient, the better. Something I would really like to see is to be able to use an ND filter or polarizer on the 1-inch mod and the 4K wide angle. This would allow us to drop our shutter speed to double our frame rate and get that natural motion blur we all love without making our image brighter. Here's a makeshift one I made out of an old pair of sunglasses. Clearly not ideal, but gets the job done. People only see the final result anyways, and that's all that really matters, right? Indie filmmaking at its finest. AirPod connectivity is also available, but it's not as great as I had hoped. The audio quality is decent, but there's a very apparent syncing issue going on during playback.
I should be connected right now to my AirPods. I should be connected right now to my AirPods.
This is how it sounds straight from the camera versus when I fix the issues in post.
I should be connected right now to my AirPods.
Nothing that can't be fixed, but still forces you to do extra editing. Looking at the hardware, the only thing I would change is to get rid of this poor choice of opening and closing mechanism. Unless your hands are the size of a child, it's difficult to open and close, let alone trying it with a case on. Having a sliding mechanism would have been a better option, in my opinion. The video quality of the 4K wide is honestly great, and I don't have any complaints there. Bullet time, which is basically an ultra slow motion mode, is super cool to use, but the quality of the image seems to look kind of compressed. Lots of potential there, so would love to see an update on that in the future. The selfie stick actually works very well. Haven't had any issues with the blending of frames when hiding the pole. I have noticed that it does a better job when the camera is further from your subject though. Shooting 5.3K 360 footage looks great as well, but it's not actually 5.3K. It's really just cropped down into 4K. Now the question you've been waiting to hear answered, is it worth the money months later? My answer to that is yes, but hear me out. Even though this is not a GoPro versus Insta360 comparison video, it's important to know that each company has an advantage over the others. I believe that GoPro does have a slightly better stabilization with their Hero series. The 1R seems a little jittery while the GoPro looks smoother. This video by Authentic goes more into depth if you want to see a comparison video. The audio recording with the 1R is pretty decent as long as you're not moving fast, but since it is an action camera, it makes the audio almost useless if you don't have external recording while doing any form of action sports. This isn't really anything new for action cameras though. Audio can be pretty tricky to work with when a lot of motion is involved regardless of the camera that you're using.
Alrighty, well, that's it for testing the audio.
The fact that you can connect your AirPods to the 1R is pretty cool, but it needs work. GoPro, on the other hand, has an adapter for external audio, but it was also discontinued without any comment from GoPro for more than 6 months, which isn't the greatest for customer service. Insta360 did mention they'll be releasing their own adapter as well, but I have yet to see any news on it. Color grading isn't bad. I'm not a fan of their choice of color grading, but for someone just wanting to film and not have to worry about all the editing, I think it works great. With that said, there's still one thing that makes this camera worth it, and that's the fact that no other camera allows me to quickly go from shooting 4K wide footage to 360 footage, go underwater, or mount it to a drone all in one camera. The important question you need to ask yourself though is, what are you trying to achieve? Personally, I think people would buy this for the versatility, being able to act as multiple different cameras in one. I see this camera fitting well with people looking to create cool social media content rather than professional filmmakers. Since I believe it fits that market best, I think the price should have been a little bit closer to $400 rather than its price tag of $479 for the twin edition and $550 for the 1-inch mod. But overall, I would say it's worth it for the versatility options. On the other hand, if you're just looking for an action camera and have no need or desire for shooting 360 footage and all the other options, just buy a GoPro. Currently, and I say currently because it could change, but if you want to do what the 1R can do but with GoPro's products, you'd have to purchase a Hero camera plus the GoPro Max, which would run you over $700. Insta360 definitely set the bar with this product, but things can change. This opens the door for lots of other companies to develop a competitive product, which for us filmmakers is a good thing, but does make it tough for brands to constantly innovate, so respect to Insta360 for trying something new. One thing I would really love to see for the future of action cameras would be to allow us to say, film in 4K 60 frames per second and then be able to switch the footage to 4K 24 frames per second in the editing room, meaning that the camera would somehow record all formats at once and allow you to select that one that best fits your edit. The only camera I currently know of that allows you to do this is the Red camera lineup along with their Red Giant software, but that's obviously easier said than done. If you're thinking about purchasing this camera, please do so via the link in the description. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what you shoot with though, as long as you're getting the results you want and you're enjoying the process, that's all that matters. As much as these types of cameras are fun toys, it's important to own and purchase gear that help you land more clients or create better videos. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Now go and film something.